This is Sway.
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 In the morning.
In the morning.
In the morning.
Shake it.
Wake your fuck ass up. That crust out your eyes, man.
That's right, 34 minutes into the hour, and we have a special guest on the line joining us as well. Andrew Wilkow is a conservative political talk radio host, Sirius XM Patriot Plus channel, and on Sirius channel at 125, XM channel 125. Andrew, how you doing? Good morning, man.
I'm sorry, I'm still standing in Times Square. I tried to move as fast as I could to get there.
Hey, man, listen, that's okay. You know, because I know you conservative guys have a tendency to be late. It's all right, Andrew. How you been?
Fine, how are you?
I can't complain. It's a big day today. Would you agree?
Yes.
Okay, let's talk about the midterm elections this time around. Why is it, in your opinion, so important, Andrew, that people get out and vote?
Well, it depends on where you stand. I mean, how's the unemployment rate? I know they'll say it came down, but the labor participation rate is the highest in 35 years. So,
wait a minute. You said the latest anticipation rate is the highest?
Labor participation rate is the highest in 35 years because if you want to fudge the numbers and discount people who stopped looking for a job, you can make it look like all of a sudden everyone's got a job. You know, there's just a lot of things that obviously a lot of people are upset about. I mean, you could take it 100 different ways, but if everything was working the way Obama said it was supposed to work, he wouldn't be losing the Senate today.
So the unemployment rate really isn't as low as the information we're getting out of Washington? It's fugazi?
Well, if you take the labor participation rate, the number of people actually participating, you know, looking for a job versus people who have a job, and take that number versus the number that's reported by the Bureau of Labor Statistics, there's two different numbers there. If you just discount the people who've left the workforce, who've given up, who've moved on, who aren't doing anything right now, it makes it look like more people have gotten jobs.
Mike Muse, what do you feel about that?
Hey, Andrew, what's going on, man? It's Mike. How are you today?
What's up? Fine, how are you?
Pretty good. First of all, I think that Andrew actually raised a good point about the labor participation rate. But I think what we need to contextualize is what the unemployment rate looked like before President Obama took office, and we were in double digits unemployment. And then ever since then, there was always a new benchmark in terms of what would be successful for him in terms of bringing down the unemployment rate. If he had to go below 10%, then he had to go below 9%, 8%. And they said, oh, well, it has to go to 7%. And if not, he's not successful, where we're way below 5% now. So now the new benchmark for the Republicans seems to be, well, now we have a labor participation rate. Okay, I'll go with the labor participation rate.
Well, hold on.
Hold on, Andrew. Hold on, Jimmy, just 1 second. Hold on. So with the labor participation rate at fault, the whole Republicans, they haven't passed any legislation that has allowed for bills to be processed, such as the highway, such as infrastructure. All those bills have been sitting and have not in advance. So once those opportunities arise and we can free up the funding and the money for those jobs to be created, then more people can participate in the labor force.
What do you say to that, Andrew?
Okay, first of all, the stimulus package pushed unemployment rate up past 8.2% in the summer of 2009. So
it's 2014 now, Andrew. Where is it sitting at right now? That's the question.
But the idea that government...
And then it's a new benchmark then now.
You're going to let me finish now?
Yes,
the
go ahead,
idea,
sir.
It's not a new benchmark. It's always been the same benchmark. Presidential policies rarely have this much of an effect on the unemployment rate unless we're talking about tax rates.
So now you're saying every president has no effect on policy, not just Obama then.
Okay, you're not going to let me finish.
Hold on. But go ahead, Andrew. Finish your comment. And then...
All I'm saying is if government spending taxpayer money to build roads created jobs with no net loss to the private sector, then the stimulus package should have stimulated the economy the way they claimed it would in the summer of 2009, and it didn't.
So are you saying infrastructure doesn't create?
Well, hold up.
No,
I'm gonna let Andrew. We're gonna let Mike respond to that, and we'll continue this conversation. Andrew Wilkow is on the line, as well as Mike Muse. We're talking about midterms elections. If you want to comment, 888-742-3345. You know, it's so important to get out and vote. A lot of things are at risk today, right? The House is at risk today.
Yeah. Yes, the House is fine. essentially. The Senate is the one that's in jeopardy right now. And so Republicans have to pick up 6 seats in the Senate. And if they pick up 6 in the Senate, then they actually control the Senate. And what that means, they actually will be in charge of controlling legislation. And that means they'll actually be in charge of controlling any Supreme Court nominations. They will also be in charge of any political appointees to the judicial system and to judges. So it's a lot at stake with abortion. I mean, the list just goes on and on and on, even with climate change and climate control.
All right, and 36 governor races are today as well, right?
Yes. No, it's the governor's races across the country.
Across the country, right?
There's some key races that we'll be looking out for, which is New York, Wisconsin, and Florida, because they have implications on 2016. Scott Walker, he's in the competitive race right now in Wisconsin. He's a Republican 2016 candidate, potential candidate, I should say. So if he loses his race as governor, it's going to be hard for him to campaign as a governor who lost his state as well. We're going to be paying attention to Andrew Cuomo to figure out, he's a Democrat in the state of New York. We want to know, he is pretty much presumed winner, but we need to know how big of his margins are, because that gives him energy going into 2016. And Charlie Crist may become governor again as a Democrat and not a Republican in Florida.
Andrew Wilkow just walked in, ladies and gentlemen.
Let me tell you something.
Drew!
Up, Andrew?
Ran
in
from the New York Times building to here nonstop.
There it is,
With
man.
my producer on the phone.
That's what's up, man. That's dedication.
I'm sweaty. You might not.
No, you're fine.
That's
I don't have
dedication.
Ebola or anything, so we're good.
Okay, great. That's good to know. Let's jump back into what we were saying over the phone. Mike Muse, you wanted to respond to something Andrew said. Andrew, you want to clear up what you were saying?
Yeah, Heather, can you do me a favor since we're friends? Read that headline from BET.
Black unemployment rate dipped in September.
Okay, to what?
The
11%.
national unemployment rate fell to 5.9%.
But
where you
did
going?
I click out of it? Yeah. What's that rate for black unemployment?
A slight drop from 11.4% in August.
You mean people still not hiring black people in this country? Is that a problem?
Well, yes, obviously. That's obviously a problem.
Why is the unemployment rate different for blacks as opposed to whites, Asians, or others? What would you say?
Well, I work here, so that's clearly not a problem.
Okay.
Perhaps that after all the taxes and all the regulations in major metropolitan cities, nobody wants to make stuff in cities anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever it is, the unemployment rate is affecting black people more than white people. That's the numbers. That's the numbers.
That's the numbers. But there are some
from
racial,
BET, so it's not some right-wing
racial
blog.
implications in that as well. Would we not agree?
I don't understand the quote from BET in terms of. I just want to understand where you're going with that in terms of.
Well, because
why do you
if I
want to
came
go
with a
BET?
conservative
Why do
blog,
you
you
wanna
would say
go-
it's a conservative blog. So in the elevator, I brought up the BET news website.
Well, I don't understand why it has to go race in terms of when it comes to like unemployment, right? Like we just talk about unemployment as a whole, right? But if you want to break it down, are you trying to say because blacks are President Obama's main coalition? Is that what you're trying to? I'm trying to figure out what the purpose and the intent of that. Because nobody mentioned anything about conservative blogs thus far.
If you
but
were
if
to
want to
assume
talk
that an
about in
urban
terms
coalition
of it, okay.
put Obama over the top,
But he's also a
there
young
would be some
coalition too as
benefit
well.
for that urban coalition that has not been found.
He had a young coalition. He had college students. He had the youth.
Yeah, young people are moving back in with their parents
too
at this
as well.
point.
So it's just not black. So let's not contextualize the unemployment rate issue as a black thing.
It is a fantasy
and I think
of
that's
socialism.
what conservative and Republicans and Tea Party has done is just really misconstrued the whole information in terms of system, and it's about emotion.
No, not at all.
It's
Actually,
about fear.
Okay, hold up. Let's go to that point, gentlemen. First of all,
black issue.
nothing's going to be heard if y'all talk over
I know.
each other.
Okay,
all right. Okay. Secondly, give examples of how you think conservatives have misconstrued information, Mike Muse, and then we'll let Andrew respond.
Well, I just think that it goes beyond the pale of the scope, right? I think that we need to talk about the reason why unemployment is the way that it is right now. I think when you have a discussion or conversation, I think that's how you should talk about it. I don't think you should do emotional-based triggers, which Republicans and Tea Party members usually do. Like, there was no reason to initiate BET as a marker and then blacks out the gate. Let's talk about overall why unemployment rate is why it is. Let's talk about how when Obama took office, the manufacturing industry was belly up. Let's talk about the financial industry. And the financial industry just doesn't appease individuals from the Ivy Tower, went to Ivy League schools who have fancy pinstripe ties. The financial services issue has a trickle-down effect to individuals who work within those corporations, who work within those offices. So there's a whole trickle-down effect of why the economy is at where it is right now. And I will highly unlikely to say that blacks were great under other Republican administrations. Like,
actually, during Reagan, the numbers were way down during Reagan, but that was great for slam poetry, means nothing in the world of economics.
So I'm saying poetry?
Yeah, you're saying poetry.
Wow.
The only jobs government creates.
Andrew, I think I'm more of a smart person than that. God, I can't believe
The
you called me
only
a
jobs
poet.
government creates is government
I
jobs.
didn't talk negative about you as well. So this
because
conversation we're going to go.
the-
That's
Well,
one
let him
thing.
respond. Let him respond.
The only jobs government
You call me a slang
creates
poet?
is government jobs. Government jobs have to come from private sector taxes. The more the government spends, the less the private sector has. So if the EPA is issuing new regulations, if the Labor Department is issuing new regulations, if the federal government is raising taxes, the people at the bottom always get hurt the most because the jobs they used to do aren't there anymore. There's a reason why people are starting to order burgers from kiosks. Because if you push the minimum wage to $15, no one's going to be around to do that job. There's a reason why when you check out at the grocery store, you're self-checking out because the cashiers cost too much money. All of these things piling on the private sector make it nearly impossible to create new jobs, to bring factories back into the United States. You can't tax, regulate, and spend all at once. You could do one, maybe two of the three, but governments do not create jobs. The private sector creates jobs.
Okay, let's let the slam poet.
I thought that was kind of a compliment.
Not in this text. I don't think that's a compliment
At all.
Okay, because not a lot of folks like slam poetry. You know, it gets repetitious and boring after a while.
All right.
That's probably why he took offense to it. What do you say to that?
No, I think I'm more intellectual than I consider myself a political analyst and someone who's engaged in a political conversation who creates conversations to advance a narrative from a left and right perspective, but more so just what the policies mean and how it affects everybody's day-to-day lives. And so I think that's just offense with the whole poetry thing. But if that's the angle you want to go, I'm more than happy to do that. In the sense of government, yes, does not create jobs, but government actually does participate in the job creation factor from tax regulations. You would talk about EPA. It's funny that you mentioned that because Senator McConnell said that if the Senate Republicans actually
I want him to lose, by the way.
Yeah,
I think I want him to
as a
lose.
Republican, if Senator Mitch McConnell says that if they do take the Senate, that his key legislation is hitting where the president where it hurts, which is funding. And how he's going to do that is he's going to attach amendments to bills such as the EPA, which is the Environmental Protection Agency, and tie him to the highway infrastructure. So that if you want highway bills to be passed, then therefore you have to add and deregulate the EPA system. So if you guys are going to be doing all of that, this is whole circular conversation that really doesn't even have any effect.
Okay, well, let's do this. Andrew, I want to give you the opportunity to respond to that. If you guys have any questions, 888-742-3345, give us a call. Sway in the Morning Shade, 4-5, 56 minutes into the hour. We're in the middle of a discussion. Midterm elections taking place today. We have special guest Andrew Wilkow is here with Conservative Political Talk radio show host on XM 125 as well as Sirius Channel 125. Of course, Mike Muse here is our political insider as well.
Yes.
And we're just going back and forth about issues that are important. One of the things that was brought up was minimum wage. Now, I have O'Shea on the line from Illinois who has a comment he would like to make. O'Shea, go ahead. What would you like to say about minimum wage?
Okay, real quick. I'm just worried. I know it's a big hot-button topic in Illinois, playing around or running around it. I get paid around $15 an hour. Fuck it, I'll say it. O'Shea, what's good? And I'm afraid what's going to happen when the minimum wage gets bumped to $15 an hour. Now, I'm not going to be able to go buy fast food. I'm not going to be able to go buy tricks and trinkets, the bullshit that I live with balling on a budget. What's going to happen when everyone's getting $15 an hour? Now we're all fucked because everything went up in price, bro.
Okay.
That is a cause and effect.
Well, hey, O'Shea, first of all, I'm glad you called. Thank you for your engagement. And nice to hear that you're making $15 too as well. With that being said, though, $15 isn't going to happen overnight. It's going to be scaled out into increments over years. And so there will be adjustments within the economy to adjust for that. That is the number one misnomer, is that because minimum wage will go up, the price of your cheeseburger will go up. None of that stuff is going to happen.
Yes,
although there's a lot of other corporations who have raised the minimum wage, and they said for a fact that the prices hasn't changed. They don't plan on changing their prices whatsoever. It's also what's interesting enough, too, so let's talk about some of the issues and what's going to be happening right now. In terms of the minimum wage debate, there actually is measures that are going to be on the ballot in Alaska, Arkansas, Nebraska, and South Dakota. And so what's happening, those are considered red states. What's happening is the legislation have blocked the minimum wage from passing through legislations, but the people of these Republican red states has said we actually want the minimum wage on the ballot, and they're actually putting it on the ballot. So tonight, we will actually get the chance to see what do the people want versus what the legislations want, and what the Republicans want, and what the Democrats want. So tonight we'll have that answer in terms of what do we want in minimum wage, and it's a good test because these are red conservative states. And it's interesting because these politicals haven't gone on record to say that they do not want to see the minimum wage on the ballot because they know that the people want it. So it's about what is best for the people, what is best for the constituency. And so that's the issues that are at hand right now, and that's what's at stake today.
How do you respond to that?
If the minimum wage going up didn't make prices go up, it was instituted in 1933. Have prices gone up since then?
Everything has gone up since then. Living has gone up since then.
Well, because everything costs more when you have to pay people more.
That's just natural inflation.
Or you just don't hire them.
That's just natural inflation.
Who inflates the currency?
That's just natural inflation. That's just natural inflation.
At the state level, they could do whatever they want. The federal government, by the Constitution, has no authority to set the price of labor. I might disagree with the ballot, but if the people in Arkansas or Alaska or any state want to do that within the state, the 10th Amendment allows them to do that, not the federal government.
Nobody's saying anything about the federal government's mandating that. That's why I mentioned
But
the
they're trying.
states, and so it's the people.
Well, they can do
It's
it.
the people.
They're going to lose
the
jobs,
people
but they
will
can
find
do
out
it.
tonight. Well, we'll figure out what happens. What the people want. The people want minimum wage to go up. So we'll see.
Okay, I got Dell on the line from Florida. What would you like to say about unemployment, Dell?
Okay, unemployment is down. You look at where we were, and you look at where we are now. Our president has done a lot for this country. If you research it, and you will see, conservative right-wing Republicans, the smart part of my phrase is full of shit, because they don't want to do anything for the American, for working class American people. They do not. What's the problem with raising minimum wage? Cost of living is going up every single day. So what's wrong with raising minimum wage? And what's wrong with also education? They want to cut education, but they want to build prison. I don't understand this.
Okay, Andrew, you go first with that.
As soon as I see the word education in the Constitution, the federal government can get involved. These are things that have just like marriage. I'm against federalizing marriage one way or the other. If the Constitution does not provide the federal government with the power or the authority to do something, then it goes to the states or to the people. There is no room for the government to decide its own powers. So gay marriage, not a federal issue, state issue.
Okay, well, how do you respond to that?
I think he still has a question about in terms of unemployment.
But he's asking what the federal government's role in education was, and it's like
but he also has about unemployment too as well. It's more of a two-parter.
And nothing. Nothing and nothing.
Okay.
What do you? How do you respond to that?
Only thing I respond is that I think the caller is absolutely right. I think that they don't give enough credit in terms of unemployment being down, that the way it is, and that we haven't contextualized what the economy looked like before the president took office in the sense of the automotive industry, the Wall Street, the financial services industry. The president has dealt with a lot at the same time, and he's done a great job in balancing all these economies so the economy is actually stable again. And the fact that unemployment is out, I can't believe that we're arguing about, yes, how it doesn't give credit for unemployment being down, but instead we're using other terms and terminologies and fear and emotions to kind of sway the conversation.
GM share price is down from the new IPO. The cars are being recalled. Mary Barra is a disaster, and all the jobs they're creating
I
are
don't
in
think
China.
the government has anything to do with recalls, though. I don't think the government has anything to do
they rescued
with
a car
how
company
the
that didn't
cars
deserve
was
it.
company.
They didn't deserve it.
But how do we approach education? Because when you travel around the world, our students in America are less educated.
Ever since the creation of the Department of Education. We were never talking about falling behind until 1978 when the federal government got involved in education. Isn't that magic?
But what do we do now? You know, for your everyday middle class or below citizen who wants to excel in life and live.
Well, this Common Core thing is not going to help.
Okay.
Federalizing education is. Again, nobody was talking about the United States falling behind the rest of the world until we created a federal Department of Education. And ever since 1978, we've been falling behind. Now the answer is, after creating this department that is pushing us behind, we should give it more money and more power. How does that make any sense?
So you feel the Department of Education should be eliminated?
Yes. Go back to the states, all 50 states. 50 states competing with better education systems, 50 great ideas, 50 sets of results, not one non-competitive monopoly.
Was this a notion of that? I guess I have a different opinion. I believe the Department of Education does have a role. I think it's good that the Department of Education is federalized. I believe that it does set standards on what should be taught and shouldn't be taught. Because if we leave it to the states, we already see the division that we have right now with blue states, red states, purple states. The education, the curriculum will be just the viewpoint of the governor who happens to be either Republican or Democrat. So I think that that's a way the Department of Education that kind of helps stabilize what our children are learning on an equal basis. It helps prevent different history, different math being taught from different institutions within the state level. And I think there's a danger when you leave education up to states.
You just wanted to leave the ballots to the states on the wage. A second ago, you liked the states.
I like to say minimum wage.
Oh,
Absolutely.
okay. So the
Absolutely
states, when you like it, the states are okay. When you
Because
don't
what
like it, the
happens is-
states aren't okay.
Well, actually, I'm glad you raised that question then, since you want to try to confuse the people.
I'm not confusing
Yeah,
anyone.
no, you kind of confuse the statements. The difference let's talk about the difference between the ballot initiative with the minimum wage versus the ballot initiative with education. I don't think that on a ballot you ever would see in terms of what should be taught in education. Should Calculus 1 be taught first semester and then Calculus 2 taught second semester? I don't think organic chemistry would be on the ballot to say should biology be taught in the fall term and then biology taught in the second term. I don't think that would happen. But on the ballot initiative that we have right now is should minimum wage be raised? That's a yes or no question. That has nothing to do with education. That has nothing to do with that.
But there are powers for the states and powers for the federal government. And if we all agree that we're falling behind ever since you can look at.
Well, I just basically just said why
What do you
I believe.
compare? How do you compare?
I just said that. I
When the
believe,
government-
I just said why I believe we should have the Department of Education for neutralizing
but all
and
right.
making sure that the standards
When
of
the
education
government-
are equal, right? I also talked about the difference between education on the ballot in terms of biology, chemistry, history, which I think is very important. The difference between red
Revised
states and blue
history
states,
or actual
and then
history?
also minimum wage. I think those are all two different things. I don't think you can compare putting curriculums on the ballot versus putting minimum wage on
Well,
the ballot.
actually,
and
you
if you
can.
can't see a difference between
No,
those two,
I
think
can't.
that's
When it
an
looks-
issue
when-
that
see,
I don't even want.
Your
I don't
version of
think I should
education
debate.
is teaching what the Constitution should say or what you think it says. I'd like to teach it what
No,
it
teaching for
actually
ed-
says.
For
And the
education,
federal-
I believe that
All
we
right,
should
do
be
me a
teaching
favor.
so that we can be competitive across the country.
I
and
will
so
be your
that
best friend.
everything is
One
equal.
simple question. Just cite the constitutional power of the federal government in education.
We don't need to be best friends, so
But
I'm
just
okay
cite
with
it.
that.
Just
We-
cite it.
I don't need to be
But
best
I-
friends.
no, I will be
I
your
don't need
best
to. I don't
friend.
need to be
I
a
will
best
go
friend.
get you a cup
Again,
of coffee. I will-
again, people.
Sway,
Be careful
I will
how.
run out and get this
be
gentleman
careful
a
when
cup
you
of
have
coffee.
people like this who do these
I will get
emotional
this
based
gentleman
and
a
trick
cup of
questions to get
coffee.
us off the topic.
See,
the topic
no,
really
we're on
is
the
the difference
topic.
between
I
Department
will
of
go get you.
Education.
I'll buy
the
you
difference
lunch
between
and dinner.
allowing red states, blue
Downstairs
states
at
to
Del
determine
Frisco's.
what
You can't do it.
biology
You can't
and
do it.
chemistry
Gentlemen.
is.
All right, man. Andrew Wilkow, thank you for coming by. Mike Muse, thank you for coming by.
Yes.
Y'all are
It's
like
still not in
battle
the Constitution.
rappers.
It's still not in the Constitution.
I don't understand, but what has to do with anything?
Okay,
so.
and if you want to reach Andrew and further this conversation, how can people reach you?
Well, we're on noon to 3 on Channel 125. At Wilkow Majority on Twitter. Pretty simple.
Okay, and then Mike Muse.
Yes, you can reach me on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at I am Mike Muse. That's I am Mike Muse. That's M-U-S and Sam E. And I will be your best friend.
Okay, and
Battle rap.
and it's important. This is why. This is
But I mean,
why.
I can just contextualize it, Sway. Like I know we
I
had.
love that.
I
No,
know
no,
we
no,
had-
no. You know what?
Oh,
we
no,
got
okay.
we got T-Pain about to
T-Pain
come up
waiting
here.
outside.
Okay, perfect. That's what I wanted to say was basically make sure you vote.
Make
That
sure
was
you
it.
vote.
Yes.
And that's and this is why we have these conversations. We got to get Andrew up here more.
You got to come on with me.
Okay, all right, that's fine too. And can Mike come on with
Absolutely.
you? All right, great, cool. Because I want to hear y'all do this on your show.
I am on at noon. That's an open invitation.
Okay, there it is. Mike, what are you doing today?
Voting.
Okay, great. All right. All right. Listen. Thank you, gentlemen, for coming by. It's so important that you go out and vote.
It's Sway in the morning, only on Shade 45.